Welcome to the Atheist Witch Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast for witches or any curious minds to learn more about a non-theistic approach to witchcraft. Hello, and welcome back to the Atheist Witch Podcast. Whether you've been with me since the very beginning or you just stumbled upon this podcast while looking for a way to cast spells without casting aside your critical thinking, I am so glad you're here. I'm your host, and I am excited to welcome you to Season 2. I have to say, it feels really good to be kicking off a second year of creating this podcast. When I recorded and posted the first episode, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know if anyone would care to hear me or if my words would resonate with anyone, anywhere in the world. While I love making this podcast, I feared others may not reciprocate, or worse, even dislike the content and actively argue with me. Instead, hundreds of you have decided to like, follow, and review the podcast on multiple platforms. You've reached out to talk to me, to ask questions, or just to let me know how you feel seen and understood for your beliefs and values, some for the very first time. I have no words to describe how much this means to me. Thank you all so much for your support and for choosing to spend your valuable time with me here on the Atheist Witch Podcast. Since this is the first episode of Season 2, I'd like to offer you a short preview of what we have to look forward to this year. This season, I'll be covering all kinds of interesting topics from the witchy but science-minded perspective that you know and love. I'll be covering green witchcraft, kitchen witchery, and magical crafts. I have a listener-inspired episode in the works called Witchcraft as Play. There will be a multi-episode series of Atheist Witch deep dives on common topics like herbs and crystals. And our bonus series this year will kick off with an episode on archetypes, followed by deep dives into various world pantheons so that we can explore how an atheist witch might use deities, not as supernatural support, but as blueprints for psychological growth. I hope you enjoy this season, and as always, please reach out to me via email or social media if you have any questions or feedback. On to today's topic. Since we are sitting here in the fresh, crisp energy of January, we're tackling a topic that is essential for both the witch and the scientist: intention setting and goal tracking. And remember, what we do here is not woo-woo, it's really just spicy psychology designed to get your brain on board with your dreams. Now, before we get into the how-to, let's have a little personal practice check-in as usual. I'll be honest with you, I have a massive love-hate relationship with New Year's resolutions. My logical brain knows that January 1st is just an arbitrary date on the Gregorian calendar. The earth doesn't feel any different than it did on December 31st. The trees don't care, the moon certainly doesn't care. And yet my witchy brain, the part of me that loves cycles and symbolism and narratives, absolutely loves the feeling of a clean slate. There's a psychological power in that fresh start effect. It's a real thing. Temporal landmarks like birthdays, the start of a week, or the start of a year can help us dissociate from our past failures. We really do view our past self as a different person than our current self, which can give us a boost in motivation. So I've been leaning into that. This year, instead of a resolution, I performed a threshold ritual. I physically cleaned my front door. And I don't mean a quick wipe down. I mean, I got a bucket of hot water, the scrub brush, and the vinegar, and I scrubbed that threshold, I polished the handle, I washed the window. And as I was scrubbing, I was visualizing that door as a filter or a membrane between my outside environment and inside my home. And I sat down and I wrote out 2 lists. List 1 was the things I wanted to leave outside in 2025. For me, that was procrastination and negative self-talk regarding my productivity. List number 2 was things that I wanted to invite inside for 2026. focus, true rest, and creativity. I then burned that first list, safely of course, in my cauldron and discarded the ash away from the house. But here is where that science comes in. I'm using a bit of psychology called priming, and to do so, I anointed the door frame with a spray that I made out of diluted sweet orange. Now, in aromatherapy or in common correspondences, you'll find that orange corresponds with energy, joy, or productivity. But biologically, as we know, scent has a direct line to the limbic system, the part of the brain that handles memory and emotion. So by doing that ritual, scrubbing the door, setting the intention, and then smelling that orange, I created a neural link. And I'll probably double down on this and put a small orange-scented candle or diffuser just inside the door. And now every time I walk into my house, that scent will hit my olfactory bulb and trigger my limbic system to subtly remind my brain that we are happy and productive here and we leave the rest outside. It's conditioning, it's Pavlovian, but it feels like magic to me, and that is the sweet spot that I strive to live in. So, let's talk about the mechanics of intention. In the spiritual community, you'll hear the word manifestation thrown around a lot. There's this prevailing idea, popularized by The Secret or the Law of Attraction, that if you just put the intention out into the universe will rearrange itself to give you what you want, like the cosmos is a giant Amazon delivery service. As an atheist witch, I take a different view. I don't think the universe is listening. I think the universe is vast, beautiful, chaotic, and largely indifferent to whether or not I get that promotion or stick to my own gym routine. However, I know that I am listening. And more importantly, my reticular activating system is listening. Let's get nerdy on that for just a second. The reticular activating system, or RAS, is a bundle of nerves at our brainstem, and its job is to be a bouncer for your brain. Your senses are constantly bombarded with millions of bits of data every second. Sounds, sights, temperature, patterns, and if your brain tried to process all of it, you would short circuit. So, the RAS filters out the unnecessary information and only lets through the stuff that it thinks is important. It's the reason why if you decide to buy a red Mazda, you suddenly see red Mazdas everywhere when you're driving. Were they hiding before? Obviously not, they were always there, but your RAS deemed them irrelevant background noise. Once you decided to buy one, you flagged that data as important, and your RAS started pointing them out. In my family, we call this the Belgium effect, but generally this is considered a cognitive bias called a frequency illusion, also known as the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. And this is some of the science behind the spell work. When we do a ritual for a goal, when we light a candle, we carve the sigil, we chant the phrase, and we focus our intense emotional energy on a specific outcome, we are screaming at our RAS. This is important. Filter for this. Look for opportunities to make this thing happen. We aren't changing the external universe. We're changing our internal filter so that we can see those doors that are already open for us. So, knowing that, how do we turn this science into a witchy practice that actually works for the whole year? Because we all know that motivation fades. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out by February. We need systems and structure to support our goals and intentions, which brings me to tools that I use for the Atheist Witch goal tracking. Tool number 1 is the sigil as a manifestation marker. Corporations spend millions of dollars on branding. Why? Because they want you to look at a simple shape, a swoosh, a golden arch, or perhaps a bitten apple, and instantly associate it with a feeling, a product, and an identity. They are hacking your brain's association pathways, and we can do the exact same thing for our own goals. So when I have a big goal, let's say I'm writing a book, I'll create a sigil for it. For more on sigils, go back and check out episode 19 on rune sigils and magical writing, but for now I'll cover it at a high level. The method that I use is often called the Austin Spare method, and To do this, first you'll take your intention and think of it in present tense. Speak it as if it was already true and write it down. So for me, writing my book, I would say, I am a consistent writer. Next, you'll remove all of the vowels and any of the repeating consonants. So it should leave you with a small collection of remaining consonants, and you'll use those consonants to create a design. You'll mash them all together into one symbol so that you can see and read each of the consonants in the symbol, but then I highly encourage you to take that symbol and zhuzh it up. Make it witchy, make it compelling, make it look super cool for you. And now here is the place where I depart from traditional magic. I don't believe that drawing the symbol magically does anything in itself, but I will take that sigil and I will put it everywhere. I will draw it on the shower door in the condensation. I will draw it on the corner of the page in my notebook. I will make it my phone background. Now, really quick, I want to mention there are multiple methods of using sigils, and this one that I'm describing is called the glance technique, and it's only one of those. So every time I see that symbol, I don't stop and I don't analyze it. I try not to really register it. I don't think, oh, yes, that stands for writing. I'll just let my eyes glide right over that. And my conscious mind will begin to ignore it after a while, but my subconscious mind will register it every single time. And it's a constant subliminal advertisement directed at an audience of one. It keeps that goal active in my background processing, making me more likely to sit down and write when I have a spare 5 minutes. Tool number 2 is the altar as a progress bar. We often think of altars as places of worship or places to leave offerings for deities, but for us, an altar can be a 3D vision board or a project management tool. I want you to think about gamification. You know how in video games you have a progress bar? You'll see it filling up and it makes you want to keep playing. We need that in our physical space. If your goal is financial, say you're saving $5,000 for a trip, you could build a money bowl on your altar. You get a nice glass bowl, put some herbs in there that correspond with money if you like, mint, basil, cinnamon, just for the sensory associations. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of money bowl ideas on the internet. But here is the Atheist Witch difference. Make it interactive. Do not just set it and forget it. Every time you transfer money into your savings account to get closer to that goal, add a coin or a pretty stone to your money bowl. Or if you want to be really literal, make a paper chain or a jar of marbles that really does get longer or fill up as you get closer to your goal. You're creating a physical feedback loop. So when you look at your altar, you should see evidence of your effort. You can literally see your magic growing because the bowl is getting fuller. It gives you a dopamine hit, which is the reward chemical, and that keeps you coming back to the habit. This brings me to a crucial concept that I talk about from time to time, and I call it the scientific method of magic. I want you to treat your altar a little bit like a lab bench. Let's say if this was a science experiment, the hypothesis is if I save $100 a week, I will reach my goal by X date. The experiment is the ritual of moving the money and then adding an object to the bowl. And the observation is, at the end of the period, look at the bowl. Is it filling up? If the ritual didn't result in the goal and the bowl is empty, don't blame the stars, don't blame Mercury retrograde, check your data. Did you take those mundane steps? Was that goal realistic? Did an emergency happen that prevented you from making it? Adjust all your variables, cast the spell again. Use your altar to track the data, not just the vibes. Tool number 3 is what I call lunar project management. This is my favorite tool. I love using the moon phases for goals, not just because the moon is beaming magical rays at me, but because the moon is a giant, reliable clock in the sky that everyone can see. Time is abstract. A month is a concept. But the moon changing shape is tangible. It helps me break my goals down into manageable chunks so I don't get overwhelmed. Let's look at a concrete example. Let's say the goal for this month is starting a garden. That is a big, vague goal. So here's how you would cycle through the moon phases using lunar project management. Phase 1 is the new moon. This is the dark phase, the sky is empty, and this will correspond to the planning phase of your project. You aren't digging yet, you're not buying plants, you are sitting with your journal, you are researching what grows in your zone, you're drawing the garden bed layout, checking your budget, and you're creating your plan. Phase 2 is the waxing moon. It's growing, it's getting brighter every night, and this will correspond to your execution phase. This is when you want to hustle. As the light is growing, your effort can grow too. This is when you go to the store, you buy the soil, you build the beds, you physically plant those seeds. This is a heavy lifting phase. You can use the visual cue of the growing moon to spur your momentum. Phase 3 is the full moon. The moon is big, bright, impossible to miss. This is the review point or the deadline. You check in. Did you plant everything? Are the seedlings sprouting? This is also a time for celebration, which is a very important but often neglected part of goal setting and tracking. You did the thing. Stop and have a moment, celebrate in the garden, admire the dirt. Do a gratitude ritual for the sweat equity that you put in and acknowledge your own power. Next up is the waning moon. The light is receding, and this will correspond to refinement and banishing. Look at what didn't work. Did you overwater? Are there weeds? Did the cat dig up the petunias? You'll banish the weeds, you'll refine your watering schedule, you'll clean your tools, organize the shed, you make edits to this process to make it better the next time. Then we move into the dark moon. The sky is black again, it's time to rest. Even machines need a little bit of downtime, so step back, give yourself permission to do absolutely nothing toward the garden for a day. You'll let nature do its thing, and you'll prevent burnout so that you're ready for the next new moon. By tying your goals to the moon, you'll stop relying on when I feel like it and start leaning into a cycle that has been turning for billions of years. Now, I want to address a concept that I see all over Witch Talk and spiritual Instagram that drives me absolutely bananas. It's the set it and forget it fallacy. There is a very popular sentiment in some magical circles that if you cast the spell, if you set the intention, and then you release it to the universe, you should stop worrying about it. The idea is if you worry about it or keep working at it, you're showing a lack of faith, and the universe won't deliver. Let's talk about this in terms of locus of control. In psychology, locus of control refers to the degree to which people believe that they, as opposed to an external force, have control over the outcome of events in their lives. When you release it to the universe, you are operating from an external locus of control. You are saying that external forces, like fate, the universe, a deity, or perhaps just luck, are responsible for the outcome. You are passively waiting to be saved or gifted. As atheist witches, we practice an internal locus of control. We believe that our actions, our efforts, and our decisions determine our success. Magic is the spark, and action is the fuel. If I cast a spell for that healthy garden, if I bury crystals in the soil, I chant over the seeds under the full moon, but I never go out and water them or pull the weeds because I released it to the universe, I'm going to have a very magical patch of dead weeds. As atheist witches, we view our spells as a commitment to taking an action. The spell is the contract that you sign with yourself. If you do a spell to find a new job, the spell is the psychological primer for you. It gives you the confidence to fix your resume. It gives you the resilience to handle the rejection. It makes you feel worthy of the salary that you're asking for. But it is not a replacement for applying to jobs. So when you're designing your rituals for your 2026 goals, ask yourself, what is the mundane action that corresponds to this magical action? If you're burning a candle to burn away obstacles, you better be ready to have a difficult conversation with the person who's blocking you, or to delete that distracting app on your phone. That candle gives you the courage, but you do the work. Before we wrap up, I have something new for season 2. I've done this a few times, but I figured I'd make it more consistent going forward. I realize that we talk about a lot of theory on the podcast, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to do something when you turn off the podcast. So every episode, I would like to give you all a little challenge to put in some work before the following episode. And for this week, your challenge is to use the 4th tool in the Atheist Witch Goal Smashing Toolbox, the tactile anchor. We're going to use the principles of associative learning. Essentially, we're going to Pavlov ourselves. And here's what I want you to do. First, choose a goal that you're serious about for this month. Just one. Don't overcomplicate it. Next, find a small physical object. This could be a ring, a smooth stone, a coin, or a keychain. It just needs to be something that you can reliably carry with you. Next, cleanse the object. Whether you're using smoke, salt water, or just a rinse, take a moment to wash away its previous associations. Reset its data in your mind. Tell yourself that this object is now a blank slate. Then you can charge it. Hold it in your hand, close your eyes. I want you to vividly visualize yourself achieving your goal. Feel the emotion of success. Is it relief? Is it excitement? Pride? Squeeze the object tightly while you hold on to that feeling. Do this until you feel like that object is just buzzing with that purpose. You are associating the tactile sensation of the object with the emotional sensation of the goal. And finally, put the object in your pocket or wear it. And here's the rule. Every time you touch that object throughout the day, whether you brush against it, fidget with it, or you just see it, you must take one tiny micro action towards your goal. So if your goal is physical wellness and you touch the stone in your pocket, do a stretch or just sit up straight. If your goal is writing and you touch your ring, write one sentence in your notes app or generate a new idea. If your goal is mental health and you picked up that keychain, take one deep, mindful breath. Use the object to interrupt your autopilot throughout the day to bring yourself back to your intention and your goal. I'd love to hear what your tactile anchor is and how this goes if you decide to try it. Snap a picture or tag me on Instagram at Atheist Witch. That is all for our Season 2 premiere. I hope you are feeling fired up and ready to tackle the year with a blend of scientific strategy and witchy flair. Next time, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a deep, comprehensive dive into the Wheel of the Year. We'll look at astronomy behind the Sabbats, agricultural roots, and how to build a seasonal practice that feels really authentic to you. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with a friend who needs a little less woo and a little more do. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep making your own magic.